And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of Tectonic Lounge. With me today is Harrison Stevens. He's the Vice President of Marketing for TurboTenant. We're talking today as part of our mini-series on real estate technology. Welcome, Harrison.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with the most obvious thing. What is TurboTenant? What do you guys do? And how did the tech and real estate connect for you?
Sure. So TurboTenant is the free all-in-one solution for independent landlords to manage their property more successful. Typically, if you own a property and you want to rent it out, you would hire a property manager and pay them on average about 10% of the rent. And we thought that was not worth it. So we built software that allows you to first find a tenant. It's kind of important if you're a landlord. And we allow you to list your property on our site, and then we syndicate it out to all the major listing sites like Redfin, Apartments.com, Realtor.com, etc. And then when you get leads, they come into our platform. You can manage them all, send out application requests, do background checks, and screen them. And then we'll write leases for you. We're US-based, so any state or city-specific leases needed, we can provide them. And then if you get someone that you like, they sign the lease, then we help you collect rent automatically. We do automatic late payments, and we facilitate auto pay and things like that. And we also provide a communication platform so that your tenant and the landlord can communicate effectively throughout the year, so that landlords are better at what they're doing and tenants are also better at communicating, and everyone kind of wins in this situation. And as I mentioned, it can be free for a landlord, and we just collect money from background checks and screenings and things like that. Or you could pay for the subscription, which is only $119 a year for unlimited properties. And that adds a ton of extra features that makes you more successful. And when you compare that to price to 10% of the rent each month,
that's huge.
It really becomes a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, I was paying rent in 4 digits recently. So, 10% of that would be your monthly cost covered, your annual cost covered in 1 month. So yeah, that's a no-brainer completely.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You hinted to my next question. I always ask every entrepreneur I get into conversations with is, what was the business problem you guys set out to solve? I understand that part of it was the idea of it is ridiculous to charge people 10%. But I don't think you just started out saying, I want to offer a free service to people. But what was the set of business problems you were trying to solve through this application?
Sure. So our founder, his name was Sarnan, he owned a multifamily property, a few units, like a small building. And he wanted to manage it himself. He didn't want to pay that fee. And he reached out to the software companies that existed, and they were charging a few $100s a month for each unit. And he said, based on the amount of units I have, if you were just to charge and collect money for those applications and background checks, you'd make a similar amount, but it would feel much lighter on the landlord side and allow them to add more properties in the future. And they kind of scoffed at him and moved on. And that is how this business was started. He figured out the financials to say he could make this successful and he could provide a ton of value. And that's the first products we offered were marketing your property, and then allowing background checks and screenings. And from there, every step of the landlord journey we looked at and decided to add more features until, for the full year, we can provide value on a consistent basis.
Okay, so again, you're jumping ahead of me, which is awesome. We're having an easy flowing conversation. So you mentioned you guys have evolved as a product, right? So obviously you said you started out with the marketing and the background checks, which is the biggest need. And then now you guys have, which I know is a big issue. I lived on the border state area, so you have to deal with leases on both sides of the border, right? Different states, different variations. You get into city laws, and you remove that headache for a landlord. Walk me through, without the specific features, walk me through the process of how you guys evolved the product. Was it just requests from the landlords, or because you guys have all managed properties or dealt with properties, you said, gee, it'd be nice to have that in the backlog? Or how did that whole process come to be?
Yeah, thankfully both in these situations. We use a product called Canny, where landlords can submit requests for new features, and the more requests that come in for a feature, the higher they move up, and that
Right.
becomes something that we monitor to say, is this going to impact the hundreds of thousands of landlords on the platform at an effective rate, or is this going to make us more money? I mean, we are a business, and we look at those things on a regular basis and kind of tackle a few of those projects every quarter. And then the other side was, as landlords, we know the business. I'm a landlord as well, and thinking about all the challenges I have, can we solve them? And we do kind of a reward impact effort kind of analysis for all these ideas on a regular basis and put them in a pipeline to see what we can do to make everyone's lives easier and make our business successful.
So is there a product owner within the company, not the owner of the business, but I mean like a dedicated person who manages that backlog and kind of pushes you guys to make decisions? Is there a committee structure for decision making?
So currently we have 4 different product teams that all own different parts of the business. We have a team that owns the lease agreements and onboarding. We have a team that owns super technical integrations with our third-party partners like Redfin, et cetera. We have a team that owns our mobile apps. And then we have a team that owns kind of finance, the rent reporting side as well as credit reporting. So if you pay rent on our platform as a tenant, and you choose to, we can report your credit, your payments to credit bureaus, and you can build your credit by just paying
Credit,
rent.
yeah.
So that's the current setup. We plan to add another team in Q3 to expand on other areas that we are kind of like sharing responsibility for. And kind of the beauty of that is they spend all day thinking about this one part of our business and how to iterate and make it better. And that allows us to increase the velocity of the value that we provide.
And when you say you have these teams, are these teams of people who are experts in the field, or they're also technical people like developers mixed into that? Or is your development happening outside of your company?
So internally, we have the product manager that is kind of the driver of what we're going to do. And then we have a product designer, and then we have a group of developers that are internal that allow us to build what we're planning. And they meet at least daily to walk through projects, kind of talk about challenges and plan things out. And then we have a QA team that also, once things are ready to be QA, they get involved. Some of those people spend most of their time working with one specific team, but they do shift at times.
So that was going to be my next question: is how do you avoid silos in this process?
We have
silo thinking, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, we have different team meetings that allow us to get feedback. It's kind of one of our core values is crave feedback. So every week we have a design feedback meeting where we go through, I'm included as a marketer and I have people on my marketing team involved. We have people on QA and customer support involved, and we see the designs for the problem we're trying to solve. It's in Figma. Everyone gets an opportunity to comment, share their opinions, and that feedback is then used to kind of pressure test some of these ideas. And then it's up to the designer and product manager to decide what direction to take. So they still own it, but they're getting the feedback from everyone from different perspectives so that, we're trying our best to account for all the different challenges we may run into when we launch something.
That's awesome. I think I've run into a lot of issues with, especially companies that are in the, so say, first or second phase of a digital startup, technical startup. Siloing, especially when you start breaking into product segments, is one of the most common problems or issues that I see, because they're not talking to each other. They're so focused on their own thing. And the fact that you guys address that is a wonderful thing. Okay, so you have input from users. You have internal input when you're choosing your features. Do users get to also be part of the feedback loop as the new features are being released or beta tested? Or is it kind of one of those, you have a select group of users, like a pilot program that you let them test drive the features first?
Yeah, so first we survey people, even a lot of times before we build things. We actually survey our customers constantly. And one of the, we ask a few different types of questions. One, what is your willingness to pay for this feature? And what would you pay for it? And we start to get some ideas of like, is this a revenue generating thing for us, or is it just a improvement to the experience? And then we're also sending out surveys of if this feature was gone, how would it impact you? So that's kind of retroactively of like, you know, if people, people would be very upset if we stopped allowing them to collect rent, for example. So that might mean that we should continue to look at, can we make this better? So we survey people from that perspective. And then when we launch a new feature, we tend to do an A/B test of that of some capacity. Is it 50-50 or, 80% gets the normal version, 20? It kind of just depends on what we're testing. And we follow that, we tag them, and that follows through their experience for a while. And we look more at, usage metrics and the value we get from them. Do we make more money from them? Do we see them adopting more things? And that's more of just testing more for business goals. And then we do occasionally do pop-ups of like, you've experienced this new thing. What did you think? Those come up on occasion as well.
And you feel the users are responsive? Like I'm amazed that you guys do so much surveying, because some people complain they can't get user feedback.
Yeah. We have a pretty dedicated group of people. I think it's a little bit of a catch-22. Like there's people that use our product because we have over 650,000 landlords now. There's people that will fill out every single survey, and they have really strong opinions and they share that. But then there's also huge segments that don't fill out anything. So we have to kind of be careful of, is this a feature that our survey lovers that just love filling out surveys, are they doing it? And I mean, we definitely tend to just listen and try and, peel back what people are saying. But also, kind of the feedback that I said earlier of like some of the most requested things that people ask for is still a small segment. And when we poll the larger group of people, most people don't want one of the features. There's just no need for it for them. And that becomes kind of the tough decision for us of, do we build something that a segment of our users want? They don't want to pay for it, but it would make it so that they could grow their business more effectively, and then indirectly we'll make more money from them because they have more properties. So those are the complicated challenges we get to talk about on a regular basis, and that specific feature we'll probably be building in Q3. So
I'm glad you mentioned the challenges. So I think it's great that there's a constant tension between, if you do have somebody come in and look, I'm willing to pay for this feature, this will save me money, then that ultimately changes your priorities as well. Technologically, have you run into challenges that you had to overcome? I mean, I know you guys have pushed into mobile apps as well, which is always fraught with unique challenges with equipment and iOS and Android system changes and all those other fun things. Do you feel like you guys have been able to keep up, or what decisions have you made to be able to keep up with technological challenges?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's also kind of accepting what we can work with. A lot of times the technical challenges come with third parties that we're working with. As I said, we're syndicating out every property to all these different places. And sometimes we kind of just live with it. And then sometimes we just get lucky where we end up finding the right person that wants to invest on that side. We've been posting properties on Craigslist for a while. And then one of our landlord's spouses happened to be a developer at Craigslist. And she was like, I'm tired of what I'm seeing. Let's build something. And then we actually built a much better process to post on Craigslist. And now it's actually growing significantly faster on how we get leads for our properties. And then there's just other challenges that, we have to learn the hard way. We built something, it's a miss. We have to sit and figure out why it's a miss and test a new version, or look at what those challenges are and peel them back and try and build something new. You can't solve every problem with planning. I wish we could. It would be a lot less expensive.
It'd be
But sometimes
nice.
we launch things and it's not perfect. And also a reminder that everything you build is never perfect and you should always be updated and everything is always evolving. So that mindset is just baked into our DNA, which helps. And it also makes it fun, you know. Sometimes you have a miss, but you learn faster because of that.
Yes, I still remember, they say our generations of men is often motivated by Kobe Bryant quotes. But I remember him saying, I don't look at loss, I look at learning opportunities. So I think that's a good one to look.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's put your magic wizard hat on and see into the future. I know you guys have plans, and I'm not asking you to reveal your competitive advantages you're going to come up with. But from your product development, what are some of the things you guys are looking at that would excite people broadly, not just your customers, but broadly people working on real estate technology in the next, let's say, 18 to 24 months?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of small iterations on just making what we've done better and certain parts of our business to expand. But, we mapped out the entire landlord journey. And there are certain areas that we've spent a lot of time on, finding a tenant. And we've even invested more time, like you need to show the property at times. So we built a showing tool. There's all these different gaps, specifically maintenance, like when something breaks, something needs to be fixed. So partnering with somebody that can help us provide a better maintenance solution. We're continuing to evolve on that side. The next part that we're really looking into is also the legal side of things. We are not attorneys. We certainly have some on staff, but partnering with the right legal option to help solve some of those problems. We've partnered with an eviction person. I think just looking at all the different gaps and saying, should we partner with someone? Should we build it ourselves? Should we do a hybrid? That's kind of where we've spent part of this year doing, and I think we'll spend a lot more of the following half of the year trying to find those gaps that aren't so easy. And another one of our core values is embrace the plunge. We had the R at the end. We run towards the hardest problems, and I think sometimes the hardest problem might not be solved by us. It's better to partner, and then we have to build the technology to partner with them effectively. So I think there'll be a lot of that, and then there's some other things that how can we reach more people in this space at the right decision-making time? So maybe partnering with realtors and mortgage brokers and things like that, or MLSs. That will be something that I'm personally interested in.
Do you guys see expanding your market presence beyond rental markets, but going into like commercial rentals or going into, short-term rental properties or things like that? Or is that you really are trying to focus on your core business being long-term rentals for residentials?
Yeah, I think going commercial would probably be a bigger lift than it seems. What a commercial person needs is completely different than us. We do have a few people using it. And also what is commercial? Like if you're a business that owns 5 properties that you're just renting out, I still think that's residential. But some people might not. And then the Airbnb space and VRBO, they're really good at it. There's hundreds of companies that do that. I don't think that our skill set makes sense right now. But there's also that midterm rental, that 3 to 6 to 9 month rental space that we do operate fairly well in. We could certainly expand more into that. We specialize in finding tenants, background checks, lease agreements. You don't do that on the Airbnb side. Right. It's kind of already done. So some of our biggest value points as a business kind of get eliminated if we go that short. But for midterm rentals, you do need to screen a tenant. You do need to write a lease. So that makes a lot of sense. And then even long-term rentals, single rooms, there's a lot of those out there. We could invest more time in that space. So that's certainly something that's on the table to be discussed.
Okay, so stepping out of your own company, I will say, everybody's clutching their pearls about AI taking jobs. I've heard a couple of real estate brokers say that we're going to be obsolete in a few years because, AI is going to take care of all of it, or all these online tools. Look, I think we all know there's ways to exaggerate all the problems, but
sure.
From a broad perspective of real estate tech, what are some of the trends you're seeing that you find exciting, even if they don't directly appeal to your company, whether they're AI related or not, whether they are, here or just talked about?
Yeah, I mean, will AI replace realtors? No. There's a lot of decision making. There's a lot of negotiating. The AI. If you could get an AI to negotiate, you could probably get an AI to beat it. Versus, there's so much personal feeling involved in negotiating in real estate. So I think AI will be another tool for a lot of people. Running comps on properties, you could certainly, I've seen some companies doing it that we're talking to partnering with, where, you can place in 5 different properties. You'll find the closest variance of them and what their comps were and what they're renting for now. I think that stuff is pretty exciting, specifically in my space. We also built an AI tool where you can upload a lease, and we've trained it to go through all of the different things that we know are potential risks, and it will spit out a free report that says, here are your potential risks. Decide what you want to do with it. It's just a free value add for people. So I think AI is going to be really exciting from just specific tool solves. And it will make certain things a little better. And I think that's kind of where I'm leaning on AI at the moment, is a really great tool for certain things. But if you overuse that tool, you start to lose its effectiveness.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. The fear is, are you as a human providing additional value as a broker, as an agent? If all you're doing is forwarding emails or offers or quotes together, then yes, AI, I think, could replace you. But if you can provide additional value, if you can add that human touch and help people remove the negative emotions that are often involved in negotiations, right? I mean, I can't think of, I think we all know the challenges of tenants who are not wanting to leave or whatever eviction stuff that you've mentioned already. I can't see AI taking care of that problem without, causing too many emotional situations. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
When a tenant doesn't move out and you ask the AI what to do, I'm sure the AI would go, well, why? Their lease says, they're supposed to move out. It's like, well, that's because they're human. They're deciding to do whatever they're going to do. And one, it's why you write a really good lease to start with, to account for these things. But two, it's why there's eviction services out there and all sorts of things like that are honestly a really stressful part of our business to navigate for landlords. And that's why in the first half of the year we found a partner that could help them. But it's a purely emotional decision for these people on why they're doing what they're doing, and rarely logical. So an AI would probably have to be trained on the illogic nature of what these people are doing, which is so variable. So will we get there in 20 years? I mean, at this rate, who knows? But probably not in the next 2 years. We'll have an AI that can really understand the illogic nature of people, is at least where I have seen things today.
Well, I think we've covered the scope of where you guys came from, where you're going, and it's fun to be along for the ride. I'm excited to see, and for everybody listening, I hope you keep tuning in, particularly for the series on real estate technology. We'll probably have about 3 more episodes on that. Harrison, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining, and hope everybody listens to the next show.
All right. Thank you for having me. It was really fun.